We're back. You are tuned into the Labor Forum here at WRFG, and the message that you just heard about the case of Kevin Davis, we now have Kevin's sister here in the studio, Delisa Davis, and we want to thank you so much for coming in. I don't believe that most people have really had much opportunity to hear the details of this case.
Okay.
And first, of course, we want to extend our condolences to you and your family and all of Kevin's friends for this really shocking death at the hands of DeKalb County Police after he called for help. I'm sorry. And this is, we also have Rashid McCall, who is with Davis Bozeman Law Firm in the studio, and he's part of the legal effort to support the family and to get some justice out of this. So Delisa, if you wouldn't mind letting our listeners know the facts of this case.
Okay. My brother called for help on December 29th, 2014. He had been, his roommate had stabbed his girlfriend, who was also in the home, and they called for help. The officer arrived, and I guess he let himself in and shot and killed the dog. And my brother hears gunfire going off in his living room, so he grabs his firearm and he steps out of his room, and he's immediately gunned down. Initially, DeKalb County told us that he was only shot once. I know him that he was shot 3 times because the surgeon that tried to save his life told me that he subsequently died from his injuries on December 31st. He was kept from us, from all family members. We weren't able to see him. We weren't able to talk with him, anything. They stopped us at the door when we did try to get up there to see him, and was denied. We didn't get to see him until he had already expired on December the 31st.
So my understanding is the police, after they shot him and he's lying on his floor bleeding, handcuffed him and arrested him.
Right, handcuffed him and was able to get a judge to sign a warrant and charge him with aggravated assault on a police officer. Some of the information was left out, which is how they got the judge to sign the warrant. I don't think that the judge knew that it was him that called for help, that the police officer let himself into his home, and there's a lot of things that were just left out. And, you know, just the way that we were treated after this, after their mistake, is just unbelievable. So,
my understanding also is that he actually, while he is in critical condition and, in fact, on death's bed,
right,
is also handcuffed to the bed.
Absolutely.
And that none of you are allowed to sit by him or sit with him.
None of that.
At all. All right, so, I should welcome you, I'm sorry. This is Rashid McCall, and as I said, he is with the Davis Bozeman Law Firm, and this is just one of many cases that your law firm has been engaged in on the issue of police misconduct, police brutality, police violence. I would like to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, just to tell our audience where this is from a legal standpoint.
Well, I'm the chief investigator at the Davis Bozeman Law Firm, and this is one of several cases, unfortunately, that I've had to investigate. And that issue right now is why the DeKalb County Police Department, why they are investigating this particular shooting, and why the GBI, which is customary, was not called to do so. So last Friday we held a press conference at the GBI in regards to this question, and we're still waiting to hear back from them in terms of them doing a formal investigation into the facts of this case.
So it'll be a month this coming Thursday. We just heard the PSA that WRFG is playing to let people know about the vigil and memorial procession that's taking place this coming Thursday. So it's been 1 month.
Right.
And have you had any contact with any authority at the DeKalb County Police Department to give you any information at all about?
Absolutely none.
And I assume that you have tried to find out. I would think the 911 call. I'm trying to, my first thought is, what did the 911 operator tell the police?
They're really not giving me much information other than it's still an open investigation, is all they said. No, I'm sorry for your loss, or none of that.
So, you were just at the Capitol,
Yes,
where
ma'am.
today the Moral Monday Georgia held a rally in the Rotunda, and it's about this whole issue of the connection, or the relationship between police and the community, particularly communities of color, where it just sort of seems that the obvious protocols that should be followed when it comes to young black men, young Latino men, young black women, etc., just don't get followed. That the first thing seems to be to shoot.
And ask questions later, and that's exactly what happened in this case.
So, if you wouldn't mind, you are witnesses to what happened at the Capitol today. If you could tell us a little bit about that rally, and I know you spoke at it, and I don't know, were there other families who spoke?
There were, and other situations. It was just a way to get his story out there, and just to keep it out there, and with hopes that it just doesn't get swept under the rug. So we need to talk about it. People need to know what's happened to him. He didn't deserve what he got. He was a good guy. He was my brother. He was a son. He didn't have any children of his own, so our nephews and nieces were his kids. And, you know, he was helpful. Actually, he was helping someone when the officer gunned him down.
You mentioned at the press conference that took place in front of the GBI, or perhaps it was later, about how your brother worked. He was a restaurant worker, worked in a small restaurant in the Decatur Square area. Would you talk a little bit about the response of his co-workers to this incredible situation when they find out that somebody they know has been shot by the police in their own home?
His boss, Lynn, asked if she could hold a memorial for him, and we were, of course, yes. It was very, his colleagues said that it was very quiet for at least a couple of days. That he was just a happy-go-lucky guy. They enjoyed working with him. They loved him like we did. A lot of the customers came through to show their respects. So it was a really nice turnout for him. He was really well-liked by a lot of people.
I'm understanding a hard and conscientious worker, somebody who
worked every day.
Nobody
loved his dog more than he loved anything else. Yeah, his dog was his buddy, and his dog lost his life that night as well.
Can I ask, you know, as I said, the nationally, and then every community probably throughout the country has endured similar, if it's a youth who's shot, like the Waiters case in Union City, or it's somebody at a MARTA station, or it's Trayvon Martin, or it's Jordan Davis, or it's Michael Brown, or it's Eric. It's you know, there's so many names.
Where's the justice? You know, there's still no justice for any of those people named, and of course my brother Kevin Davis.
One of the things that also came up, you said that Kevin, I guess, and a friend had been downtown when the big demonstration for Michael Brown that happened at the CNN.
Hands Up, Don't Shoot. And a news organization stopped and spoke with him and his friend that he was there with that day.
And so when they were downtown, they saw this, and then they participated. And who would have thought that just a couple months later that this would be his story? I want to again ask Rashid. So when Davis Bozeman Law Firm takes a case like this, obviously you are looking for a sound legal argument. And yes.
That's correct.
But I think the thing that is also notable about this law firm is that you also recognize the role of the community and in mobilizing and educating the community. Would you like to speak a little bit about that?
Sure. We handle a lot of civil rights cases with a specific emphasis on police brutality. And, you know, one of the things that we have had to educate the community on is the community knowing their rights, particularly when they come into interaction with the police. Because oftentimes, you know, citizens, when they call the police, they're calling them for help, not calling them to get gunned down, like in Mr. Davis's case. So there's a little, you know, the community tends to be apprehensive about, you know, calling the police. When we have to deal with, you know, these instances time and time again of, you know, people calling for help only to be victimized by the police. So, you know, we have ongoing campaigns as it relates to knowing your rights and what that means. You know, how to interact with the police, you know, once they come upon a scene. And so we do that, you know, through various ways, you know, whether it's through rallies, whether it's through seminars, etc.
Just to follow up on that, I watched 60 Minutes last night. There was an interview with the police chief in Cleveland, and I didn't know the story about the Justice Department had already been investigating, but I think one of the questions that was asked was, and I was curious about this in terms of DeKalb County, there's the idea that, well, maybe this is just one or two bad officers, or that there's something systemically wrong with the system in terms of what this pattern that's going on. Do you have a sense of how you feel about DeKalb and their treatment?
Well, I think with you know, the majority of all police organizations, we have to take a historical look on how they were created. And with anything, if a worker builds a house on a faulty foundation, you're going to continue to have problems with that house, whether it's leaks in the basement or, you know, the shifting of walls and doors. So the only way to deal with those type of problems is to tear that house down, fix the foundation, and start again. And I think, you know, we here in America have reached that point where we're tired of fixing those leaks in that foundation. We're tired of repositioning those doors so that they can close correctly. And we're at the point where, you know, the community ultimately has to reimagine what the future of law enforcement looks like, because their main function is to serve and protect, not to terrorize the community. So we have to start at the foundation.
I guess I sometimes, when I hear this serve and protect, you know, this is a program that deals a lot with workers' issues and strikes and other things like that. And I think time and time again, you're on a picket line, you're marching against war, you're supporting somebody who's losing their home to an unscrupulous, profit-hungry bank or mortgage company. And the role of the police doesn't ever appear to be to protect the average working class citizen, the average working class person. It always seems to be that because the laws, I guess we can say it's part of this foundation we're talking about, the laws are made by those same corporations and those same banks, so those laws are protecting them. So the police are they're protecting and serving, but for the most part, I think most of us don't really ever feel that they're on our side.
Right.
It's like I think, well, you know, when you're on a picket line and you're on strike because you got low wages or whatever the condition, well, why don't they go in and and arrest that boss because they violated labor laws by not paying or not, we know, that never happens. So that's just a comment from me about the protect and serve aspect of what we always hear. I don't know if everybody else wants to weigh in on that thought.
Well, they certainly didn't protect and serve on December 29th when my brother called for help.
Now, let's just ask, let's suppose that the GBI investigates, and let's suppose they find some fault with either the actions of this particular police officer, or maybe even further up the chain. Maybe there's a whole series of inappropriate or mistakes that were made. What is it that you would want to see done? I mean,
I think that he should be held accountable. He should be charged with murder. Essentially, that's what it is in my eyes.
but Mel, both of you, and Paul as well, I mean, you obviously made a really great comparison, I think, to the house that's built on a faulty foundation. But for example, today, this rally that took place at the Rotunda offers a number of reforms that would ameliorate, would blunt the edges perhaps a little bit of some of the most egregious cases. There's a legislation regarding no-knock warrants, which we have seen, not just the Katherine Johnston case and not just the Baby Boo Boo case, but countless other people whose homes, the doors get knocked down, they get terrorized, and it's the wrong address, it's the wrong people, whatever. And the militarization of the police. Michelle, who was just here, gets evicted from her house by men dressed in the whole SWAT gear, like they're going to war. So what is your perspective about some of the legislation that's being offered by Senator Fort and others that would alter this? I mean, do any of those pieces of legislation make you feel more comfortable about?
Not yet, because they haven't come to light yet.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, you know, I also investigated the Baby Boo Boo case. That's one of the cases that I was primarily responsible for as well. I think, you know, these acts of legislation is a starting point, but again, you know, we have to get back to the issue of the foundation. You know, if we want to support this legislation, you know, as it relates to the memory of Katherine Johnston and the suffering of Baby Boo Boo, you know, again, I think that's a good starting point, but, you know, we have to be more proactive in terms of reimagining how we want our local, state, and federal police departments or organizations to look like, to truly serve the people. So, you know, I think it's important for communities to come together and be proactive in terms of offering solutions, reimagining what that looks like as we, you know, march further into the 21st century.
So, in terms of DeKalb County moving forward now around this case, what can the community do to help make sure that justice is done?
Well, I just want to keep his story alive. We're going to hold a candlelight vigil for him this Thursday at 6 p.m. At the courthouse on McDonough Street. I believe the address is 556 McDonough Street in Decatur, Georgia. I just want to keep his story alive, and just so that it just doesn't get swept under the rug. He didn't have to die senselessly. You know, I just don't want his death to be in vain. He was a good guy. He didn't deserve what he got.
So again, and that my understanding is that the processional will go by his place of work,
Yes.
the sandwich shop. And I guess I really want to point this out, that when we talk about these cases, whether they're a young person or whatever, these people who are being murdered by the police are always the family members of working people. This is working people who suffer this kind of injustice. And I have to say, I can't remember a case, I'm 68 years old, I cannot remember a case where the police go busting into some billionaire's home and shoot them, no matter what they're doing. So I really do want to say that here on the Labor Forum, we really regard every issue of concern to the community as a workers' issue. As I said, the people who suffer injustice at the hands of the police are working people, working class people, and poor people. And that often it is communities of color that are receiving this, the most violent and the most nonsensical and the most brutal treatment. And I want to thank you.
And it is brutal.
And I know that this has been really, really hard for your family. You certainly never thought,
That
as
would
you
be in this position.
watched Trayvon Martin's mother, or Jordan Davis's mother, or Michael Brown's mother, or Eric Garner's wife and mother, that you would be in this situation. And I know this is hard.
Extremely.
If you just had, we have just a few minutes left, if you wanted to really have our audience who's listening, understand better about why they need to take action, that they need to get involved. I guess I really am speaking to just what I said, that every family that this happens to never, ever thinks it's going to be something that happens to their family.
I just appreciate the support. I had no idea that I would be in this situation or be getting the support that I've gotten, from a number of organizations. I didn't, this is all new to me. But I have to do this for my brother.
Rashid, what do you see happening nationally in terms of fixing this foundation? What do all these movements that are happening now, this issue has been with us for a long time, but something is happening now in the consciousness of people that they want to see change.
True. I want to pay accolades to the young people. I have a young face, but my soul is a little old. So, I want to send out a soul clap to all the young people around the country who have taken up this banner, because quite frankly, we've been dealing with this issue ever since I can remember. But I think that around the country there's a lot of traction in regards to the young people, them standing up, them coming up with creative solutions to deal with this issue. So hopefully those efforts can be consolidated. Those organizations can come together in coalition, and we can finally see some change that we've been waiting for years. Yeah.
I wanted to say one last thing. I think both Paul and I are members of unions. We're retired members of unions. And this again, I make this appeal really. It just seems to me, and it happened a little bit at the breakfast that the Central Labor Council did on the Friday before the Martin Luther King Day holiday, where the vice president of the AFL-CIO talked about this issue and also talked about the issue of mass incarceration as issues that the labor movement, the organized labor movement, that is those workers who actually have negotiated contracts, who have better wages, who have certain guarantees about their job, that they actually take a stand against this rampant police misconduct, brutality, and violence, and the mass incarceration, which similarly flows from it. The stop and frisk and all the kinds of things that target youth. And I say that to all of our listeners, that if you're in a union, please make a conscious effort to engage your union structure, your union organization, and anybody who's in any other kind of organization. It's really important, as Delisa just said, that the families who endure the personal pain are able to be supported by the community, and we mean everybody in the community. So just one more time, the information about Thursday, then if there's any kind of websites, other kinds of information, places people can go.
There's going to be a vigil held in my brother Kevin Davis' honor on Thursday at 6 p.m. starting at 556 McDonough, which is the DeKalb County Courthouse.
And I should say, the courthouse was chosen because this is where you want some justice to come from.
Yes, and he worked right down the street.
And he worked right down the street,
Yeah.
and the march will go, the procession will go by his workplace.
Yes, ma'am.
And come back. And in terms of the Bozeman law firm, or any of the activities that you're engaged in, Baby Boo Boo, any of the other things, Rashid, that you might think our listeners want to follow up with?
Well, I'll just say come out Thursday and support the candlelight vigil. And also, if you're not a part of an organization or labor group, get involved. Don't be silent. Our strength are in numbers, only in numbers. We can't do this individually. We have to act collectively. Thank you.
I want to thank you both for coming in, and I also want to let folks know that 2 other members and associates of Kevin Davis have been here in the studio. I want to thank you too also for coming.
You're so welcome.
And so folks, I want to make sure that you stay tuned here to WRFG, where in 1 hour from 6 to 8, we will be talking about the contributions of Ebon Dooley. He was a founder of WRFG, a strong activist in the labor movement, in the communities, a poet, a revolutionary, a father, a man who, if you ever was greeted by his smile, it would remain indelibly in your memory about what a charismatic person he was. And so from 6 to 8 today, we will be having a special tribute, and that is because yesterday would have been Ebon's birthday. He died in 2006, and his memory is not diminished one iota here at the WRFG studios and station. So please stay tuned next for Democracy Now! And then at 6 to 8, the special tribute to Ebon Dooley. Paul and I will be back next week, next Monday. Thank you again, Delisa Davis, Rashid
You're
McCall.
welcome.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
stay tuned.